You survived the Miami weekend, nailed the speech, and maxed out your credit card in the name of friendship. Now you've got one hangover, 4 pastel dresses, and 0 reasons to wear them again. Sell them on Depop. Just snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. And you at least get some of your dignity, money back. Someone on Depop wants what you've got. Start selling now. Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
This episode of The Infamous Ones addresses sensitive and distressing topics, including the abuse and death of minors. I want to emphasize that the content may be triggering for some listeners. The intention is to raise awareness and foster discussion around these serious issues. If you or someone you know is affected by these topics, I encourage you to seek support from a qualified professional or helpline. Listener discretion is advised. The little girl who spent her childhood worrying about her mother's emotions grows up to be the woman who died because of her mother's emotions.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast with me, Kay, the Texas girl in a Georgia world, baby. Ladies, how y'all feel? Fellas, y'all all right? It is Sunday, February 1st, 2026, and your girl is feeling elated and honestly a little bit educational, okay? Today being February 1st kicks off so many different things. For one, it's World Hijab Day. Shout out to my beautiful ladies of different ethnicities and cultures that are rocking your hijabs. Represent today, okay? And I'm hoping I'm saying that right, but I'm pretty sure it's hijab. Also, it is National Freedom Day. Y'all know back in the day in like 1865 that Richard Wright Sr. kicked off that good old 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. Now, some did get the news a little late. Y'all know we celebrated on Juneteenth because, kind of got the news a little late because even though slavery was abolished, was it really? February 1st also kicks off Black History Month, y'all. And what better way to celebrate Black history than to commemorate the wonderful the amazing 4 men from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University who sat down at the Woolworth's lunch counter in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1st, 1960. So today we honor David Richmond, Franklin McCain, Ezell Blair Jr., and Joseph McNeil. We honor these 4, also known as the Greensboro 4. If you don't know, you better Google, you better do your homework, okay? Because these 4 helped spark an entire movement that changed the nation, okay? So yes, February is a wonderful month, and I am here for it all month long. Now, y'all know we celebrate Black history every day, not just for the month of February, okay? Amen and hallelujah. But besides that, I had me a nice little break from work after this crazy storm hit, then had another one come in. I've been seeing y'all's pictures of the snow and all of that, and I am not jealous in the least bit, okay? I got to sit back, have all my favorite snacks, and finalize my next book release. I am almost done with the rewrites of The Vow, and I can't wait because, baby, this one is a thriller. So stay tuned for that. Oh, and did I mention that this is the first episode of season 4? It has been 3 amazing seasons, and we are now in season 4, mobbers. I am blessed that you all continue to support me each and every week throughout all of my crazy shenanigans and late starts and late episodes and all of that. Like, this week's case is definitely a doozy, and I figured it was the perfect way to start off season 4, even though I had to re-record it because clearly y'all could see it's a week late. I done went and uploaded that thing and it was nothing but silence, honey, and I was pissed. But I sat down and re-recorded it just for y'all, okay? So season 4, get ready because we're gonna have a ton of crazy cases, all right? Shout out to everyone that came out to the live show on January 17th in Charlotte, North Carolina. That was absolutely amazing. Y'all really came through for your girl. Hopefully, we can keep it going with bigger and better events in the future. I know one thing is for sure though. Listen, I can't get Coochie and Christ out my head thanks to some very interesting listeners. I know that may not make sense to some of y'all, but listen, you had to be there, okay? But I was very, very pleased with the live show, covered a couple of good cases, and woo child, the family just had me just like it really had me thinking with that one particular case with family like that, who needs enemies? If y'all were there, y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I got some good stuff cooking up, so y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned at the end of the show so that you can hear what's coming up for the infamous ones next, okay? Now, y'all know I'm about to ask, right? What y'all sipping on? Tonight, I have my popcorn and my hot tamales. And thank you, Kendra, for the hot tamales. And I got my wine of choice, which is Franzia Moscato. It's a box wine, y'all. And I was very hesitant, but I had bought it for the live show and there was some left over and woo, it was good. Like I'm not gonna front. One box is supposed to make like 34 glasses, but I'm thinking more like half that, like 12 to 15, cause honey, I don't know about y'all, but I fill my glass to the brim, okay? So, yeah, that cut that number down drastically, but yes, it's a really good Moscato, and I like it, so Imma have to, keep it in my rotation. Alright, y'all, so, as I advised earlier, this case is extremely hard to hear because it deals with the death of several minors. So, there may be some parts in the story where you feel like you may need to skip ahead, and that's okay. Trust me, I get it. I'll try to warn y'all the best that I can, but at the same time, listener discretion is advised, okay? Let's get into it. Hop on in and buckle up because we about to take a ride to Maryland in 2007, back when Christopher Maurice Brown fine ass had us ladies wanting to give him a little kiss. Rihanna had us dancing in the rain with her umbrella. Tyler Perry was making Sheila climb that mountain to save her marriage, and Eddie Murphy had all of us saying, "How you doing?" with that box office smash hit, Norbit. Okay, listen, 2007 was definitely one of them years, man. It was one of them years that there was so much going on. There was a lot of artists killing the charts. We practically stayed in the movie theaters because of all of them releases. There was always something to do, and nobody could ever be bored. But just as great as 2007 was, it was also a time where the Maryland Child Protective System was being scrutinized for its lack of concern for minor children, especially when 4 children with multiple reports came up dead. And it rocked a neighborhood to its foundation. Y'all ready to get into it? Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Brittany Jacks, victim, Tatiana Jacks, victim, Nakaya Fogel, victim, Aja Fogel, victim, Norman Penn Jr., Brittany's father and opportunist, Nathaniel Fogel, Nakaya and Aja's father, as well as Benita's boyfriend, LaPoy Kelly, Brittany's boyfriend, Kathy Lopez, Brittany's school counselor, and the only one to really seem to give a damn about the girl, and the infamous murderer of the week, Banita Jacks. Banita Jacks was born December 17th, 1974, to Mamie Jacks in Maryland. Now, there's not much on her childhood outside of the fact that she attended school in Charles County, Maryland. She lived in the DMV area, so, they bounced around. And if you're familiar with how the DMV is, Maryland could technically be DC on one side of the street and Virginia on the other side. It's all depending on where you lived. Bonita was, well, a little different. She told people that she only had a sixth grade education, but in all actuality, she did continue to go to school until she turned 17. So I'm not understanding why she was telling people and like belittling herself that she only had a sixth grade education, but go off. So she was 17 years old and in the 10th grade when she found out that she was pregnant with her beautiful child, Brittany Marie Jacks. Now, Mamie wasn't too happy about it because her daughter was about to be a teenage mother, but hell, she had to do what she could for her child. And that meant, helping her navigate motherhood at a young age. Oh, but don't think she wasn't hot when she found out that her daughter was a 304. Yeah, see, Bonita was out there busting it open for everybody. Beautiful little Brittany Marie Jacks was born January 5th, 1991. But y'all heard me say she was out there busting it open. Bonita didn't necessarily know who Brittany's daddy was. Well, at least not right away. It took her a couple of trips to the courthouse, some jail time, and a DNA sample before she could figure that out. But finally, when Brittany is like 10 years old, she finds out that the father of her child was Norman C. Penn Jr. So his paternity was established and he was ordered to pay child support and everything. I think it was like a little over $300 a month, which in Maryland is crazy to me because that's such an expensive state to live in. But it ain't matter anyway because Norman wasn't even paying that little amount. Bonita was getting nothing. She and Brittany were all each other had, and for a bit it was just the two of them until Bonita became pregnant again with her second child, another baby girl, Tatiana Mecca Danielle Jacks. She was born October 9th, 1996, and unfortunately, Bonita had to take a few men to the courthouse for her too. She eventually finds that father, a man by the name of Kevin Stoddard. Once again, paternity is established and he goes on child support and he also has to pay like a little over 300 a month. But y'all know damn well he ain't pay that shit. So now she has two kids by two different daddies and neither one of them are doing for their responsibilities. And remember, Brittany's daddy didn't establish paternity until she was like 10. So that's a really long time to go with, no help. But Bonita is doing everything that she can to take care of her daughters. She wanted to do better for herself and her two little girls. So, sometime in the year 2000, she enrolled into the Aaron Academy of Beauty in Waldorf, Maryland. And, she became a student and was doing really good. Like, she was a natural with it and all of that. You got some people that basically know how to do hair since they came out the womb. She was one of those. And she got to do not only other clients' hair, but her girls' hair. And everything was going good for a while. And she ended up getting a job at a hair salon as a stylist once she left cosmetology school. So she starts working at this hair salon and she was doing very good. She had her two girls and they were coming in there constantly getting their hair done, looking cute and all of that. They were like her own little personal, Barbie dolls and the salon little models or whatever. And around the time that Tatiana is about maybe 4 years old, Bonita ends up meeting this guy that came into the salon. And his name was Nathaniel Fogel Jr. Nathaniel Fogel Jr. was born March 16th, 1969, to Nathaniel Sr. and Jessie Fogel. He had two sisters, Crystal and Tiffany. There's also not much on him until he pops up in this case. He was coming into the salon a lot and getting his hair done and, all of that, getting his hair braided up, getting snatched, whatever you want to call it. And that's how he meets Bonita. He was like, damn, she looking kind of cute. Now, I am not necessarily going to make any comment about a person's physical appearance because I know I have my days where I could be looking real feature challenged. But hey, I mean, he found her attractive, so okay. And the photos I saw of her, maybe they were just a little old, but I couldn't see what the attraction was. I think it might have helped if there were some photos of her prior and not just her when she was looking down and bad and looked like hell on earth. Like, she got 4 kids, so she had to be looking some kind of way. But, nevertheless, Nathaniel is feeling her, and the two of them ended up talking, and they started to, get to know each other. He didn't mind that she had 2 daughters. Everything was cool with them. So, this is around 2000 that he ends up meeting her, and not long after he met her, Bonita ends up getting pregnant again. So now she's expecting her 3rd child, and it's another girl, Nakaya Fogel. And at least this time she knows the father of her child. They nicknamed the baby Chunky Monk, and she really was, y'all. She had the fattest little face. It was so cute. But in 2001, she gives birth to Nakaya, and, everything is still good. She's still working as a hairdresser, and stuff is, getting better. And then they kind of started slipping off a little bit. So when Nakaya was born, Bonita got pregnant damn near immediately. And in 2002, Bonita gives birth to her last child, Aja, who was nicknamed Red Baron. For the life of me, I could not figure out why they called her that because Red Baron is a damn fighter pilot. So I'm trying to figure that one out. But Bonita now has 4 daughters, and Nathaniel's happy. Things aren't the best, but they aren't the worst either until they start fucking around with drugs. And drugs will make you go out there and do some stupid stuff. And that's exactly what happened. Bonita and Nathaniel, they start getting into the drugs heavy and they take it to the extreme. They start giving weed to the babies and watching them get high. Like, not just one of the kids, but all of them getting the babies high and watching them running the walls and shit. I'm like, why? First of all, why are you wasting your weed on your kid? You supposed to smoke that shit yourself. You can't be wasting weed like that. I'm just saying. But the two of them are really, doing a deep dive into the drug world, and it's starting to affect how they function in everyday life. Like, you giving your kids this. What is wrong with you? Bonita stops going to work and is canceling all of her clients. Nathaniel is just as bad. It gets to the point that Bonita ends up losing her job at the salon. So now they have to figure out what they're going to do for income. Like, they were making it before, but now it's about to be even harder, especially since they got this drug habit to support. Now, all of this is going around 2005. The one positive is that the girls are in school and doing well. Both Brittany and Tatiana are at Howard Road Charter School in Washington, D.C. Both are doing great in their studies. Brittany is a little bit older, obviously, than Tatiana, and she's at the age where she's hanging out with her friends, and she even got her a little boo thing. But, she's a typical teenager. And I will say, her and Bonita did bump heads a lot and fight. And sometimes, Brittany would run away because she just didn't want to have to deal with her mama. But eventually, she would go back home and things would calm down. Now, Tatiana, she's much like Brittany in the aspect of, hanging out with her friends and wanting to have fun and everything. Her father had other children. So sometimes she would go kick it with her half siblings, Kayvon, Tavon, and Tequila, which was cool or whatever. But I mean, it still would have been nice if your daddy would have paid some child support. I'm just saying. So then you got the 2 younger ones, Nakaya and Aja, that are at Meridian Charter Public School. And, they're smaller, so they really didn't have to do much. They, like to color and draw and jump rope and play with their dolls like most typical little girls. So, I guess, like I said, the good thing is that they're all in school. And Bonita had to really lean on the government for assistance. Like, she was getting food stamps, work first, TANF, WIC, everything that you could think of. And it was needed because she had to get them girls, taken care of. But it still wasn't enough to help keep a roof over their heads. She didn't have many other options. So she hit up her mama, Mamie, and was like, "Hey mama, me and the kids and Nathaniel, we getting evicted. We need a place to stay. Can we come stay with you for a while?" And her mama's like, "Yeah, baby, that's cool. Y'all can come and stay here. You can bring the girls, but I'm not about to let Nathaniel live here." And Bonita's confused, like, "Why, mama? You know that's my man." But Mamie was adamant. She was like, exactly, that's a grown-ass man, Banita, and a grown-ass man can get his ass up and go get a grown-ass job. Like I said, you and the girls can live here. Y'all are my family, but this nigga ain't my child. That's not my family. That's
Taco Bell's new jalapeno citrus salsa adds a tangy twist to the Cantina chicken menu. A sweet and spicy, bright, citrusy burst of flavor made with real red jalapenos and guajillo chilies. Try it with a rolled quesadilla, and you will absolutely be, well, I don't want to give it away. You need to try it for yourself. New jalapeno citrus salsa. The sauce with main character energy. Get it with anything on the Cantina chicken menu. For a limited time, only at Taco Bell. At participating locations while supplies last.
Athletic Brewing Company crafts award-winning non-alcoholic beers for those who want to be part of every round. With over 185 flavor awards, they're exceptional NA beers that fit your lifestyle and any social occasion. Summer's full of good times, and Athletic fits right in. Go to athleticbrewing.com to have brews delivered to your door, or find them at a bar, restaurant, or store near you. Near beer. Athletic Brewing Company. Fit for all times.
your boyfriend, and your boyfriend should have been better prepared and taken his ass to get a job. And Bonita ain't really feeling what her mama has to say. But mama telling her like it is. Like she just being hard-headed. So she tells her, well, if you ain't gonna let all of us stay, then none of us are gonna stay. And I'm thinking, all right, it's one thing to fuck off your life, but don't do that to your kids. Like, let the grandkids go live with their grandmom so that she can help take care of them. Don't fuck up their whole life. December 2005, Bonita applies for housing assistance, and y'all know those lists take forever to get approved. So, after her mom told her that they couldn't stay with her, well, that Nathaniel couldn't stay with her, they ended up living in a shelter at the DC General Hypothermia Shelter for like 4 months, damn near 5. The girls are still in school and everything, but as far as sleeping, this is their home. And then finally, the shelter tells her, like, okay, hey, we can't keep accommodating this many. We need the space. So April 9th, 2006 is when they go to live with her friend, LaShawn Ragland, for a while. And things were good there for as long as they could be. Bonita and Brittany would argue over, little minute things, but it was expected with their relationship. After living with LaShawn for so long, they ended up living in a homeless shelter again. And, things were kind of tight for a while. Like all they had was each other and their van. But eventually, they had gotten some assistance from this nonprofit that helped them move into a house in August 2006 that was located in Washington, D.C. They called them row houses, which it looked like a townhouse to me. But anyway, Bonita and Nathaniel, they're grateful for that. They're feeling like, okay, now we got our second chance. They're still getting assistance from the government, but, shit, government assistance is needed sometimes. Amen and hallelujah. I know I've had to get food stamps quite a few times, but, things were going good. She's getting checks from the government to help take care of her and the girls and trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they were in. But a storm was brewing, and it was coming for Nathaniel. July 2006, Nathaniel starts kind of feeling bad. So he has to go to the hospital, and there he gets diagnosed with leukemia. And, the doctors are telling him, hey, we understand that this is hard for you. You're going to have to get treatment, chemo, all of that. But he was against it. He couldn't afford it. And on July 12th, 2006, he checks himself out of the hospital, and CSA gets a phone call from one of the nurses, and she's like, listen, he needs treatment. Bonita is devastated. The two of them were happy. He was her soulmate, and now he's got leukemia. He's dying. And so when she finds out he's sick, it's hard on him because, again, he doesn't have insurance for the treatments. And he's still doing drugs. I don't know if he was, using the drugs as a coping mechanism or if he just didn't give a damn anymore because he knew he was dying. But him and Bonita are still living life and doing their things with these drugs. November 30th, 2006, Bonita forgets to recertify, so their food stamps get canceled. And one of their caseworkers is constantly calling her saying, hey, you guys need to come in and get care, especially Nathaniel with him being sick. but it never happens. His condition is getting worse each day that goes by. And it got to the point where the only thing that Benita could do is just make sure that he was comfortable. Mind you, she's still taking care of 4 kids too. But Nathaniel didn't have much time. Both of these parents, are substance abusers. They've got substance abuse issues. They're both on drugs. And trying to deal with that, plus Nathaniel's sickness, plus being a mother, it was a lot. Sadly, on February 19th, 2007, Benita comes in and she finds Nathaniel dead. And a part of Benita died that day, in my opinion. She feels like her life is just over and everything just literally starts crumbling. With Nathaniel, she had a reason to live. Yeah, they had their struggles, but they had each other. That was her man. They had the perfect family. And so him leaving her and dying was just devastating. And, she slowly but surely started to withdraw from everything and everybody. His mother, Jessie, was really hurting because she had just lost her husband a few months before that. Now her son, y'all, they had his funeral. And the messed up part about it is, Bonita didn't even tell the girls that Nathaniel had died, nor did she go to the funeral. Like, she literally just mourned him by herself. Nakaya and Aja had no clue that their daddy is dead. And of course, Nathaniel's family thought this was very odd that none of his kids or his girlfriend was there. But, this was becoming Benita's new norm, I guess. She became isolated. She was always in the house. The girls went to school and everything, but outside of it, that was like really all they did. Benita would occasionally be spotted by a neighbor here and there, but she was becoming a hermit. The girls were starting to become unbearable to her, and every time she looked at the youngest two, she was reminded of Nathaniel. It was also bothering her that Brittany was on her same old bullshit. And so, Benita was pissed because she's trying to grieve, and Brittany is being a typical teenager. Like the audacity of her. Oh my gosh, you're being a teenager. And so as time went on, the two argued more and more. Now, Mamie started to get concerned about what was going on with Benita and the girls because she hadn't really seen them like that. So she actually reached out to the Charles County Social Services Department to try to see what was going on with her grandkids. She tells them, I'm concerned about the well being of my grandkids, but I don't think she's mistreating them. I just want to make sure they're okay. Yeah, see, something like that, you call the police for a welfare check, not DCFS. I think she was more so worried about Benita and Brittany because they were beefing so much. But at the same time, she was like, well, I don't think she's mistreating them. I just want to make sure that they're okay. And I'm just like, but they're arguing. They're like, what, oil and vinegar or oil and water, whatever the phrase is. Benita knows what it's like to be like that. She ain't that much older than Brittany to begin with. Hell, she had her at 17 her damn self. So in essence, it was like watching two teenagers fight because Benita had a childlike mentality her damn self a lot of the times. So as time is going on, things are getting harder for Benita. She's not getting the government assistance that she used to because when it came time to recertify, she found doing the paperwork too exhausting. She couldn't figure it out and ultimately just gave up. Now, I don't know if that had to do with her education or, just a lack of will in wanting to try because she was dealing with so much mentally at that point. But she was like, listen, this is too much with this paperwork. I don't know what to do. I guess there's no more food stamps. Occasionally, her neighbors would help her out and take the kids to go get something to eat because they were trying to be helpful. Nathaniel's mama, Jessie, she would try to come by the house to see the kids, and rightfully so because she was paying the rent at the apartment for Benita. But Benita would never open the door for her, wouldn't let her see the kids, nothing. And Jessie was calling and calling, but Benita wouldn't answer. And when she did, she would tell her, please stop calling here. So I guess after a while, Jessie got the hint that Benita didn't want her to, see her grandbabies. And so she fell back. Oh, but best believe she stopped paying that rent though. Okay. Now at this point, Brittany's in a new high school and she's in 10th grade, living her life and everything. And she got her a new little boo, Leapway Kelly. He knew what was going on with Brittany to an extent because when she would come to school, she would tell him, what was going on. They would talk on the phone and all of that. And if he couldn't reach her on her cell phone, then he would hit her up through MySpace. And woo, damn, that is showing my age. MySpace, though? Shit. Wow. I remember my MySpace. Yeah, I'm really telling my age right now. That's how old this case is, y'all. But anyway, around this time that, Brittany's at her new school is when Bonita really starts tripping. One night, Bonita had a dream. And I ain't talking about no Martin Luther King inspiring type of dream either. Nope. She had a dream where Nathaniel appeared to her. He was happy and healthy, and he told her, "Baby, you are my Mary Magdalene, and we shall be together and be as one again. I am going to return to you. But there's one small problem, my love. You must get the demons out of the girls. They have been possessed by demons, and we can't be happy and together again until they're gone. Let's be together, my love." Baby, when Bonita woke up from her dream, oh, she knew what she had to do. She had to save her girls from themselves. Now, keep in mind that Nathaniel died February 19th, 2007. It's now March 2nd, and Brittany goes off to school and has what she thinks is going to be a normal day. She sees her man and they have their little cutesy conversations and all of that. He walks to the class, everything is good. She goes home, and when she gets home, her mother is on one. As soon as Brittany hits the door, Bonita starts in on her. "You Jezebel, you're a demon. You've got the spirit of Jezebel in you. You're a whore." And Brittany ain't no punk. She ain't just gonna take her mama disrespecting her. She coming right back at her mama. And she ain't no little chick either, okay? Brittany's like 6 feet tall. She coming at her mama like, how am I a Jezebel? How you just call your child a demon? Like, what's wrong with you? They going back and forth, and Bonita is not having it. In her eyes, Brittany is a demon. So she tells her, "Oh, I'm gonna fix you, demon." She takes Brittany's phone and she locks Brittany in her room. Like legit closes the door, locks her in there, and puts the key on the top of the door. And then, to add insult to injury, duct tapes the door. And this is where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
"'Cause what in the flowers in the attic is going on here?" And the other girls didn't have it any better. It's not like, they weren't getting it too. It's just that Brittany got it the worst. Only thing is now, Brittany isn't there to help them. She's locked away like a freaking prisoner. Bonita has completely distanced her oldest daughter from the rest of her kids. Like, the younger girls, they're dealing with the drama. They sitting in the house with their mama who thinks that they're all demons. Brittany's boo is calling her, but she's not answering any of his calls. She's not coming to school, and no one knows what happened to her. Inside of the Jacks household, it's chaos and mental health issues. Brittany's being tortured. With each passing day, she's being starved. She's becoming sick. And Bonita is thinking, "Oh, okay, the demon is losing." She doesn't let Brittany out of that room to do anything, not showering, not bathing, not clean clothes, not doing anything but sitting in that room. No food, no bathroom, absolutely nothing. The other girls had been taken out of school and withdrawn, and they're at home watching their mother unravel, crying for their sister. 33 days pass, and the school counselor is beyond concerned. Brittany hasn't been back to Booker T. Washington. No one has seen or heard from her, and her counselor, Kathy Lopez, is starting to think, okay, maybe I need to go check on this girl because last time I saw her, she seemed a little bit sad. So, April 27th, 2007, she goes over to the house and she knocks on the door. And of course, Bonita answers. And Miss Lopez is like, "Hey, so I wanted to come by and check on Brittany. Can I talk to her?" And Bonita was like, "No." And Miss Lopez is noticing Bonita's appearance. She's disheveled, looking run down, all of that. And Kathy tells her, I'm really concerned about her. The last time I saw her, she looked a little sad." But Bonita assures her that, her daughter is fine. She's like, no, she's homeschooled now. She can't go to Booker T anymore because she likes to run away and I'm not having it. So I'm homeschooling her. Baby, Kathy heard that and was like, the fuck? So she leaves, but she comes back 3 days later on April 30th, 2007. And this time she got the cops with her. Like, you're not going to tell somebody, oh, she runs away and I don't have time for that. Because Kathy knew that sounded a bit fishy. So she comes back with the police officer and another school employee. And they knock on the door, and Bonita doesn't even open it this time. Like, she's like, didn't I tell her ass that she can't see Brittany? But Kathy is resilient. When she go back to her office, the way she was calling CPS on Bonita every day, and I mean she was calling every day, all day, to the point that Sergeant James LaFranchise went to Bonita's house himself. He goes knocking on the door, and Bonita didn't want to let him in, but she goes to the front yard to talk to him because she needs him to get folks away from her house as quickly as possible. And he's chill with her, at first he's respectful. He was like, "Hey, Miss Jacks, been getting some calls concerning the girls, and I just want to make sure everything's okay with them. Can I come in?" And Bonita tells him, if you got a warrant, if you don't have a warrant, you can't come in. We can talk right here." And he tells her, well, there is some concern about Brittany. And Bonita's, she's cool. She was like, she fine. She ain't attending Booker T. Washington no more. I'm homeschooling her. These are my children, and I can do with them as I please. So unless you got a warrant, have a good day. And I mean, she's not wrong. She is their mother. So, he leaves. But keep in mind that he came to her house April 30th, 2007. Okay, that's going to play a part in this later on. So he leaves without laying eyes on the girls at all. Bonita goes back in the house and she's feeling like those demons are just getting stronger. Every day she passes by her daughter's door, those demons are taunting her. So one day, she grabs a knife and goes and unlocks Brittany's door. And the two of them start arguing. Brittany is weak. All the time she's been in there, she hasn't eaten. Bonita has been giving her medicine to take on an empty stomach, and it's making her sick. Bonita, is really trying to get rid of her. Brittany is having to use like her closet as a bathroom. She's dirty, she's starving, she's literally wasting away to nothing. And here comes Bonita fucking with her. Harlot, Jezebel, I cast you out of my daughter now. And she stabs Brittany in the stomach. She leaves her in the room, closes the door, and locks her back in. The other girls, Tatiana, Nakaya, and Aja, they have it just as bad. They're in the house wasting away to nothing. Bonita is starving them just as much, pumping them full of medicines, and these poor babies are getting sick and throwing up left and right. And then on top of that, Bonita takes all the furniture out the house and puts it in the backyard. Why do you ask? Because the demons had gotten into her furniture. Yeah, you heard me correct. The demons got into her furniture, and she has to get rid of all of the demons. So she takes the furniture out the house, and the neighbor sees her looking a hot ass mess, and they ask her, "Girl, what the hell is wrong with you?" And she's just dragging furniture, telling them, "Oh, yeah, stuff is a little bad right now. I got the cancer, and well, it's taking a toll on me." Now, if she actually had cancer, it would it would explain her looking like that, but we both know that was some bullshit. She looked like that because she had a triple dipper of depression, delusion, and dangerous thoughts. So the sergeant goes back to his job and basically puts Bonita and the girls to the back of his mind. Like, he's just like, all right, she said that they're good. I'm just going to leave it alone. And back then, it was no requirement as to time frames of when to do a report. Now, it would have been nice for him to do it pretty much immediately, but considering how this entire situation is going, yeah, it would have been nice for someone to actually lay eyes on the girls and get them the hell up out of there. But I digress. So while Bonita is faking cancer around her neighbors and Brittany is dead upstairs in her room, Kathy Lopez is still hard at work trying to find out what's going on. On May 10th, 2007, she writes a letter to the Youth Social Service Division of the DC Superior Court, and she's telling them how weird it is that nobody has heard from Brittany in months. And she thinks that, Brittany was being held hostage. So social services got the letter and they looked at it and they were like, yeah, we ain't got time for this. They did nothing about it. Like, ladies and gentlemen, they put that shit in the recycling bin. That is your tax dollars at work for you. Okay? June 13th, 2007, Brittany is officially withdrawn from school at Booker T. Washington Public Charter School. Damn, that's a long ass title for a school. But I mean, hell, after 3 months of her not showing up to school, it makes sense that they withdrew her. So Tawana Richardson drops by to bring Bonita her Social Security check one day around September. Now she would bring them twice a month, and she comes in and she sees all the girls except for Bonita. And when she sees them, they look bad. And so they're frail, they're quiet, they're scared. I'm wondering if she called anybody or thought to because the change in these girls was so drastic. But, you know, that was the last time anybody saw these babies alive. And not long after that, Bonita felt like the demons aren't leaving fast enough and she decides to choke them out of her children. Now, it's not, known specifically what day it happens, but she gets Tatiana, Nakaya, and Aja together, and one by one, she kills them. First, she gets Tatiana, and then she hits her in the head, but didn't kill her. So instead, she strangles her, then she strangles Nakaya, and finally Aja. When she's done, she lays them out one by one, side by side in the bathroom, according to their ages, and walks away. No remorse at all. She medicates herself and lays down to rest. Now, like I said, unfortunately, I don't know how much time passed between her friend coming to bring her the Social Security check and when she killed the girls, but it rolls into January of 2008. By now, her power is out, her water is off, and there is the worst smell coming from the apartment from the children's rotting bodies. The neighbors are smelling it, and it's bad. They're thinking maybe it's a dead animal, maybe it's trash. They just know the smell is bad and it's got to go. Remember, I told y'all that Nathaniel's mama Jessie was paying Bonita's rent, and then she stopped shortly after Bonita kept her grandbabies from her? Well, Shotty Girl hadn't paid her rent in months after that. And because of that, an eviction is filed. And on January 9th, 2008, the cops show up to put her and the kids out. They knock at the door, and Bonita answers wearing a dirty, worn white t shirt that ain't really white with bloodstains on it. And they tell her, ma'am, we're here with an official eviction notice. You have to vacate the premises immediately. And Bonita's trying to figure out, how to get them up out of there. She was like, oh, you got a warrant? And of course they do. They show it to her. And she actually tries to close the door on them. But them cops was ready. They said, ah, ah, and pushed that door back open and walked right on inside. As soon as they stepped in them doors, that scent of rotting flesh hit them. What the fuck is that smell? It stinks like hell in here. But Bonita acts like she don't know what the hell they talking about. The cops are like, all right, let's get this stuff up out of here. But honestly, she didn't have much to take because Bonita had already taken the furniture out. They're making their way through the home and they arrive to the bathroom where they find the bodies of Tatiana, Nakaya, and Aja all laying side by side, dead and decomposing. And when I say decomposing, I mean bodies are gelatized, skin hanging off of them, stinking beyond gaseous. Just once upon a time, I was a crime scene investigator and I would watch and see bodies in various stages of decomposition. And yeah, this one was really bad. So the cops saw that and instantly they're sick. They go running out the house for fresh air, unable to contain their puke. And Bonita is still there, cool, calm, collected, like nothing was wrong. And they're like, ma'am, are these your kids? And Bonita calmly tells them, the demons took over. Demons? What the hell is this chick talking about? Girl, we just walked in your house to evict you and now we find 3 dead kids and you talking about some demons? They go back into the house and then they make a more gruesome discovery. An officer sees this door that's closed that has tape on it and a key at the top. And their curiosity gets the better of them and they open the door and they see Brittany's body damn near stuck to the floor. in a worse decomposition than the other 3 girls that had already been found. So more cops are called to the scene and they're asking Benita who these girls are and how long they've been there. What happened? All of that. They're calling everyone in. It's all hands on deck. The neighbors are coming out and being nosy. Different agencies are there. People are going in and out of the apartment. Word is spreading quick about what happened in that house. So they take Banita Jackson to the precinct and they start the interrogation. She's questioned, and the police are trying to figure out why she would do that to her daughters. What would possess her to do such a heinous thing to her own flesh and blood? She talking crazy out of her head and talking about demons and Nathaniel, and they're wondering who in the hell is Nathaniel? And she's telling them how, he was asleep and wanted her to join him and how the family would all be one again. And they're listening to this and they can tell this chick has problems. Like this bitch off her rocker. They were interrogating her for hours, like several hours had passed. They're asking her all these questions. How did the girls get like this? What happened? When did she do it? And she's given the craziest answers of all time. She's telling the officers and the investigators how the girls were possessed by demons, how Brittany was the worst because she had the demon of Jezebel in her. She talked about how Nathaniel was just asleep and how he was Jesus Christ and how she was Mary Magdalene. And she talked about how she had to get rid of the other ones because she didn't want them to be like Brittany. And so they're like, okay, so when did they die? And she was like, "Oh, it was around August or September, somewhere around there." No definitive answers though. Like she kept changing things up. She was like, "Well, they were just being bad. They were being demonic. I couldn't have that." And the investigators knew that she wasn't, necessarily in the right state of mind. So they're asking her, "Can you tell us again what happened to Nathaniel?" And she tells them, "Well, he went to sleep in February, but he'll be back." They looking at each other confused as shit. The fuck she mean he went to sleep? Ain't that nigga dead? It's been damn near a year. What you mean? And she started to really feel like, she was dealing with Jesus. Like it was crazy. And she was blaming the girls, talking about how one of them died and the other girls laughed. And that's how she knew they were demons. At one point, she told the investigators that she thought she'd have to, have at least another year before she would have been evicted. And by that time, the bodies would have been decomposed completely. It was so much that was going on. But when they showed her the picture of Aja's ultrasound, oh, baby, she broke down. I don't know if that's what made her realize like her kids were really gone and she fucked up, but she broke all the way down. It was like a weird wake up call. And while this is going on, Sergeant James LaFranchise is hearing about what happened and he's realizing, oh, fuck, I never filed that report. So he decides that then would be the perfect time to go in and file the report. And in the report, he doesn't put that he, spoke with her in the yard. He says that he was in the home and saw the girls. Well, at least Tatiana, Nakaya, and Aja. He says they looked happy and healthy and all was well. And then he later goes back and amends that report saying that he saw Brittany too, which of course we all knew was some bullshit. So the Mayor Fenty, ends up coming to the house and he sees the scene and he's just as devastated. And he's just saying, like, okay, this is a tragedy. The system failed these kids. They failed these babies. What happened? I need to get to the bottom of it. And that's correct, sir. You do. There were so many people that were supposed to be looking after these babies, and clearly something went wrong. And so they start digging into stuff, and the school system was quick to defend themselves. Like once they heard, they were like, "Oh, nope, we need to make a statement." One of the spokespeople for the DC Public Charter School was like, "Listen, what can we do when the mom unenrolled them and tells us that she's going to homeschool them? Are we supposed to follow up with that? Are we supposed to be a second layer of skin on her? Once she unenrolled the kids, that's nothing we can do." I mean, she didn't say it specifically like that, but y'all get the gist of it. And she's right to a degree. If they're homeschooled, you can't monitor. But if you're noticing and suspecting, issues before these kids are unenrolled, rightfully so, you need to follow up. Rightfully so, you need to keep your job. The investigators hear everything, and on January 10th, 2008, Banita Jacks is arrested, and she's charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of felony murder, and 4 counts of cruelty to children. She has a total of 12 counts, and she goes to jail. And there she sits there until her trial, July 15th, 2009. The trial is held in the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. So the trial starts July 15th, 2009, but Bonita decides that she doesn't want to go before a jury. She instead wants to have a bench trial, and her lawyers were trying to get her to plead insanity. And honestly, it really did make sense considering everything that's happened and how she was responding. But she wasn't medicated. She killed her daughter. She stayed living in the house with the decomposing bodies. She even tried to make it seem like no one lived in the house at all. She kept the blinds down. She let the mail pile up. She stopped paying the bills. She would only leave out the back door. It all sounds like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for me. Her attorneys told her this is your best bet of saving your life. All your daughters are dead. So the only way to really save yourself at this point is by pleading insanity. But she didn't. So she has this bench trial, and Judge Frederick Weisberg is the judge presiding over her case. She had 3 public defenders, Lloyd Nolan, Peter Krathemeyer, and David Norman. The prosecutors for the case were Deborah Sines and Michelle Jackson, and those 2 ladies were very tough. Deborah gave this dope ass opening statement where she laid it all out. She told the judge that these girls experienced a prolonged, torturous experience. All facts. Oh, and Bonita didn't testify on her own behalf either. Instead, what the prosecution did was they took the interview that she did with the police and the investigators when she was initially brought in, and they used that in the trial. But Bonita didn't want to be in the room for it. The defense tried to keep the interrogation out, trying to convince the judge that the investigators were already talking to Bonita long before they even had, solid evidence that she was the one that made it. But the judge was like, all right, I don't really think that matters considering that she was in the house when the bodies were discovered. She literally was wearing a blood-stained t-shirt and a rag on her head, just walking around. So even if she was supposedly didn't do this, she was still in the house with the bodies. And the bodies weren't fresh. They've been sitting there for a long time. Literally, your children's remains, because that's pretty much all you can call them in the same house as you. Not to mention, nobody hadn't seen them for months. So that in itself is evidence. So the judge says, yeah, we ain't doing that. And they bring in the witnesses to testify and, all of that. One of whom was this cop, the cop that came to evict her, matter of fact, from the house, Deputy Marshall Grant. He talked about the initial sight that he saw and how she seemed to not want to let him in the house and how he, tried to prevent him at one point. He also informed the judge that she answered the door in a bloodstained t-shirt and how when she tried to get him to, leave with her, or for her to leave with him, excuse me, she spat at him. For the life of me, I don't understand why people spit at people. That's the nastiest shit in the world. Ugh. They bring up Bonita's friend, LaShawn Ragland, who Bonita and Nathaniel and the kids lived with right after they left the shelter. And LaShawn further confirmed how Nathaniel and Bonita were letting the girls smoke weed and laughing and joking about it and how stuff, all of that, and how Bonita and Brittany were always arguing and everything. And she talked about how when Brittany pissed Bonita off, Bonita would sometimes not feed her or, just isolate her from her sisters because she knew that she loved her sisters that much. Ooh, I can't wait for Fair or Foul because, ooh, this makes my ass itch. So then they bring Mamie on the stand, and she's trying to talk about how great of a mother that Bonita was and how she made the best with what she had. And she tells the judge that things didn't really go left until she got with Nathaniel. She's telling the judge, I didn't know what was going on with my daughter. I didn't know she was struggling that bad. Ma'am, how? Like, what? Your daughter literally called you and said that she had gotten evicted and that her and the girls and Nathaniel needed a place to stay. You told your daughter that she and the girls could stay. So obviously her financial troubles didn't go away after that conversation. But like I said, Mamie's talking about how she didn't know that it was that bad, and, that they were living in shelters. And she said that their relationship had become distant, which it had. They hadn't really talked over the last few years. The last time she physically saw the girls was in 2005. And, everybody was happy and healthy and clean and together then. And so the prosecution, they're basically asking Mamie questions to make Bonita look like the worst woman in the world, while the defense is trying to depict some sort of decency. They brought some of the neighbors to the stand and they talked about the mental status of Bonita and how, things kind of drastically changed with her and going from being well put together to just run down. Some of the neighbors thought that she was sick because, she had been telling everybody she had cancer. But mostly they talked about how they hadn't seen the girls in a very long time. And one of the neighbors at one point actually volunteered to take custody of Brittany because it seemed like, that's who Bonita was having the most issues with. They had volunteered to take her and raise her so that Bonita could get a break. But Bonita wasn't with it. Because she was like, that's my child. You're not taking her. No. I just thought of something. I wonder if she was so hard on Brittany because of the fact that Brittany wasn't Nathaniel's child. Like, that's kind of sitting in the back of my mind. Hmm. Anyway, so Brittany's boyfriend gets on the stand next, and he recalls the last time he saw Brittany, which was March of 2007, and how he had been calling her and hitting her up on social media and everything, but she just wasn't responding. She just disappeared. I, you know, I will give Bonita's attorney credit though, Lloyd. He really was trying to argue for her, and he had some valid points. He was talking to the judge and he was like, "Listen, yes, Bonita was there with the girls' bodies, but we have no way of proving that she killed them. The decomposition was too severe. Yeah, she could have called and told the police that they were there, but the knife that was found in the room with Brittany didn't have her fingerprints on it. So how can we say that she's the one that killed her?" One important thing that, he brought up was the interrogation steps because he said that cops had, taken some parts out to make it look worse than what it actually was. So he was like, "Hey, if you're going to listen to the tapes, listen to all of it. Don't pick it apart." Deep down, I think he knew that this was a loss because, I mean, come on, bruh. You've got four bodies in a household that have been rotting and decomposing and festering and literally wasting away to skeletal remains. Bonita's walking around like a fucking zombie, blood-stained shirts, no food, no furniture, no anything that looks like joy in that house. Just an empty room or rooms that probably echo with every step. Oh, but I was happy when they brought that cop James LaFranchise to the stand because they called him out on all his bullshit. The defense started talking about how convenient it was that his report wasn't turned in until the day that the bodies were discovered. They started questioning him on what happened on April 30th, 2007 when he went to the house. They were like, "Oh, you said that you saw the girls." And he was like, "I mean, I said that in the initial report, but honestly, I didn't. I talked to Miss Jacks outside. I think I just kind of made a few mistakes when I put it in the report." You think? And prosecution was like, "Well, why did you do it?" And he told her, "Honestly, I don't know. I really wanted to, help her and be there for her, but clearly I was wrong." No shit, Sherlock. And of course, y'all know that they brought Kathy Lopez to the stand. Round of applause for Kathy, okay? When she got on that stand, she told everything. She was like, "I knew something was up from day one. I knew this girl was lying. I knew that child was in danger. I kept calling and kept asking people to check on these babies. My concern was for Brittany. She was so emotional when I talked to her." One thing that stood out to me was the other prosecutor, Michelle Jackson, with her closing argument. She said something that had everybody really thinking how bad it was. She said that the defendant placed them in their own prison of torture, not on foreign soil, but in her own home. It was systematic and methodical. I mean, she wasn't wrong. You know what I'm saying? Both sides rest, and Bonita's fate is left into the hands of Judge Frederick Weisberg. On July 29th, 2009, the judge addresses the court and he says, whether it's out of desperation or hopelessness, to take them out of their misery or some other known reason only to Banita Jacks, she intended to kill him. Her acts were intentional and reckless and caused each child grave injury and ultimately death. So it was no surprise that he finds Benita Marie Jacks guilty of 4 counts of felony murder, 4 counts of child cruelty, and 3 counts of first-degree murder. The only reason it wasn't 4 is because of Brittany. Looking at the evidence, the judge honestly could not tell how she died as far as if it was from a stab wound or otherwise. Of course, prosecution is, more than pleased with the verdict. The ladies are saying how sad it is, but how, happy that they are that the girls are getting the justice that they deserve, even though it won't bring them back. And that's true. No matter what you do, those babies are gone. So Benita goes back to jail and she has her sentencing that's scheduled. However, one of her attorneys, Peter, he files an appeal in October based off of her psychiatric records to prove that she was, again, insane and using that as leverage to get her to a mental health facility versus her going to prison. Apparently, there was a newly issued report from the doctor that did the psych eval on her after she had gotten arrested, but it was never presented in trial. So they're trying to use that to say, hey, she wasn't competent to stand trial. You should have never tried her. And the judge was like, I really don't give a damn. You shouldn't have put that information in there. You didn't do that. That's your bad. So it didn't happen. But he sort of compromised when he told them, I'll consider it when it comes to her sentencing. So Benita had to wait for a while for sentencing, but December 18th, 2009, the judge brings her back into the courtroom and he tells her, for the murders of Brittany Jacks, Tatiana Jacks, Nakaya Fogel, and Aja Fogel, I sentence you to 30 years for each murder. 4 kids at 30 years apiece, 120 years behind bars. Jesus be offense. Benita hears her sentence, and initially she's taken to a mental health facility in St. Elizabeth. However, she was basically still being her usual self because Benita was refusing psychiatric treatment. She didn't want to talk to her doctor, she didn't want to be seen, but this time it wasn't her choice. They made it clear. No, boo boo, you're going to do what we tell you to do. You're now in our custody. So they give her medicines, and it actually did help her because, she started to somewhat act normal. But there was still one problem. Several people were still pissed off at the system for how these girls were done and how they were ignored. And I'm talking about several people from the community. Kathy Lopez, hell, Brittany's father, Norman, with his punk ass. A lot of people had something to say. And one thing that Mayor Fenty was serious about was cleaning house. Turns out, when Benita got that housing voucher, apparently she was supposed to have monthly visits, but it never happened. And the city was also looking at the school saying, how is it that this girl missed so much school before somebody intervened? And this is another moment where I start to think,
You done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
this entire thing was fucked up. Brittany had missed 33 days of school before Kathy Lopez was like, okay, what's going on? Kathy wasn't aware because it was not brought to her desk until that point. After 4 or 5 days of not being in school with no type of communication, that's when you should be concerned. Hell, I don't know about y'all, but here in the state of Georgia, there's a little thing called truancy. And if your kid misses so much school, they're going to send a nice little letter to your house. And then if they continue to miss school, they're going to send a nice little officer to your house. Amen. And it wasn't like, this was back in the 80s. This was 2007. So it wasn't that long ago. So to have 33 days missed and then you say, oh, there's a problem. Let me take it to the counselor. There was no direct point of contact as it should have been. Y'all know there's a phrase, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right? In this case, there were several Indians and not one damn chief. One of the areas that was really failing was the actual child welfare workers. There were several welfare workers that were involved with these girls, or that should have been involved rather, and they fired 6 of them. And Mayor Fenty is on their necks. He's like, oh, y'all thought I was playing? But tell me why 3 of the fools that were fired were able to get their jobs back, which irks me because it's like you gonna go back to doing the same bullshit. I'm hoping that this was an eye opener for them to get their shit together. Like, I get that, social workers can be overworked at times, but there's checks and balances. And when you go into this profession, you go into it knowing the volume of cases that you're going to have. Like, flat out, DCFS failed these kids. How is any of this okay? A couple of family members filed lawsuits, one of which was Mamie Jacks. She sued the city for $10 million, saying that they failed her grandkids. Ooh, I got so much to say. But again, I'm going to wait for fair or foul because, ooh. So she sues for $10 million and the city settles out of court for $2.6 million. But Mamie didn't, get all that money. The attorney general's office said that she was required to set up an estate fund for the girls because some of the girls had siblings from their father. They set it up to where the siblings would receive some of the money for their educational needs and whatnot. I want to say it was around maybe $250,000 apiece. Then they also had to donate money to organizations that are supposed to help with the betterment of youth services. So, they chose Safe Shores. And the attorney general told Mamie, hey, if you're really saying that the system failed these girls, then this money that you're getting is going to help so that that doesn't happen again. And then, of course, the attorneys, they get their cut, and it ain't no small amount either. So even though all of this money was given, she only walked away with less than $1 million, like less than $500,000, honestly. Mamie wasn't the only one that sued, though. Brittany's father, Norman Penn Jr., he filed a lawsuit against the city saying that they didn't handle his daughter's case correctly either. Um, my boy, how about you didn't handle your daughter at all? Because where the fuck were you the entire time? Anyway, so Buddy is telling anyone that would listen, they didn't train any of their employees to handle this the right way. Funny thing is, the money that he settled for, they still took out for back child support. Dumbass. So after all of this, the employees get fired, people get a check from the city, and 4 precious babies are gone. Bonita was sent to a federal correctional institute for a while in West Virginia, but then she went back to a medical facility. And the last time I reached out, she was incarcerated in a mental health hospital in Fort Worth, Texas. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the tragic story of Banita Jacks and 4 beautiful souls lost. And now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the justice system to determine if the sentencing that was given was indeed fair or if it was just bullshit that's going to have us sit back saying, what the fuck? All right, let's begin. Let's start off with the simple part of Benita's sentencing of 120 years. Definitely fair. I get it. She was hurting. She was depressed. She was sad. She was missing her man. But never put a man above your kids. Those were your daughters, 2 of which you shared with your man. That was your blood. They didn't deserve what you did to them. So that's simply to say, yes, 120 years is fair as hell. I will say, though, I'm kind of bordering on the whole prison versus mental health facility. Like, I do feel like she does need to be in a mental health facility simply because she went untreated for so long. I think she was suffering from some type of mental health issues, especially after Nathaniel passed, when she started having dreams about Nathaniel and thinking that he was God and she was Mary Magdalene and the whole, spirit of Jezebel in your daughter thing. Like, yeah, that's a no, shawty. Like, you gotta be something else to sit there and call your daughter a hoe. Like, lady, have you looked in the mirror? Maybe you were seeing yourself. There's nothing that really says that Brittany was out there like that, but your track record proves it because you had 2 situations where you didn't know who the father of your children were. Hell, Brittany's daddy didn't even get found out until she was 10. The fact that she went that long without knowing, that speaks volumes. Maybe Bonita saw herself in Brittany, or maybe she was scared she was going to end up like her. I don't know. Brittany had a boyfriend, yes, but all she wanted to do was go to school and be with her sisters. She wanted to make sure that they were good. They had people, that cared about them. So why kill them? What was the reason for that? What was the reason? They didn't deserve this at all. Brittany wanted to live a regular teenage life. You isolated this girl for months. You left her alone. You starved these kids. You took the joy out of their lives because you lost something that you love. So because you lost a man, you took joy away from them too. And then what bothers me is you didn't even tell these girls that their daddy was dead. You didn't even go to the fucking funeral. Nothing. Maybe not going to the funeral made it feel like it wasn't real to you. Maybe you feel like, Nathaniel really would come back and that's why you didn't go to the funeral because you couldn't look at him. I don't know, but I just don't think that killing your kids was the way to go. If you was that miserable where you wanted to be with him again, take yourself out. Shit, clearly these girls could have gone elsewhere and survived. You could have sent them to live with their grandmother. You could have given Brittany to the neighbor that wanted her. You could have given the younger girls to Jessie, their other grandmother. Hell, you could have given them to you could have given Tatiana to her father. So, there were options available is all I'm saying. But you chose to keep them with you and make them suffer. If I know that I'm down bad and I'm getting evicted, best believe I got people that I can call that'll take my kids. They may fuss, they may, complain or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're going to step up and take my kids while I get my shit together. That 120 years is well deserved. Do I hope that you're able to acknowledge your faults and be remorseful at some point? Absolutely. It's been over a decade that you've been incarcerated, so I can only hope that you feel remorse now. I'm hoping that the mental health facility you're in, that you're staying on your meds and everything, and it will, at some point just make you sit back and say, what I did was fucked up because throughout the entire process, you didn't have any remorse. You didn't want to be in the room while they listened to the interrogation tapes during your trial. You cried for a brief moment when they showed you an ultrasound of Aja, but that was about it. Everything else you denied or you tried to make it seem like it was no big deal. So I'm happy that you got the time that you did. It's definitely fair. But here's what's not fair. Let's start off with DCFS and the entire system that failed these girls. Every person that was involved was supposed to have monthly visits because of the fact that Banita got housing vouchers, and she didn't. And it didn't just stop there. I myself have been on public assistance before, not to the extent of, Section 8 housing or anything, but I've received food stamps before. And there's been times where you're supposed to recertify and you're supposed to have an appointment and all of this. And a lot of times the coworkers have so many cases that they just recertify and you give them, information and they're going to take it as fact. Now, granted, yes, it tells you when you do the application and the recertification and all of that, that if you're that, if you lie willingly, that you can be prosecuted and everything. But, obviously that is yet to happen. So you do take that risk of lying and getting caught. But at the same time, some of these caseworkers really didn't do their due diligence. They don't investigate. They don't actually fact check the information being given. And in this instance, the minute that Bonita got that housing voucher, they were supposed to be coming to that house every single month to check and make sure that they were okay, but they didn't do it. Why is it that Kathy Lopez had to call so many times? It takes somebody damn near harassing you to get somebody out to that house. And then LaFranchise with his ass, he goes out there and talks to her on the lawn and doesn't even think to do the report. Now, I will say as far as back then, you didn't have to do the report right away, but come on, man, make it easy. Do the report as soon as you come back. I know many officers that may not do their report right away, but it's done before they get off shift, before they take their ass home and hop in that car and go home to their people, they get the reports done. Because ain't nobody trying to go back and do that shit afterwards. And then when you do go back, it's because oh, fuck, I forgot to do this. And you go back and you lie to try to cover your tracks like, oh, they're not going to see what date, that you did that shit on. Like, they're not going to be able to tell that you waited over fucking several months to do what you should have done that day. You making yourself look worse than it already is. Definitely should have lost his job, especially when you got on that stand and said, oh, well, I saw her, knowing damn well you didn't. And I'm sorry, but Bonita's mama Mamie, how you gonna sue the city talking about they failed these girls? Nah, sis, you failed these girls. Where the fuck were you? I've never heard of a mom that lives in the same state and ain't laid eyes on her daughter and all the grandkids in almost 3 years. Baby, DMV ain't that big. You could have easily went over to that house because you knew where she was living. The last time you saw her was in 2005. So how the fuck do you let your grandkids and your daughter not be seen in 3 years, but you want to come after the city and say this is their fault? Yes, the city did fail these girls. Yes, the city did slack off and not do what they were supposed to do. But guess what, Grandma? You failed as well. All it took was one visit. All it takes is for you to go over there and see that your babies are living in a prison. Your babies are living in a fucking house of doom. Get the babies up out of there. Then, when you do call CPS, you tell them, oh, she's a good mom. I don't think she's hurting them, but I just want to make sure that they're okay. If you can call CPS to go over there and visit, then you can take your ass to go over there and visit too. And Norman, I'm talking to your ass too. Where the fuck were you all those years that Brittany went without a daddy? The only thing that she had as far as a father was Nathaniel. But you want to turn around and sue the city? You failed your daughter the day that you nutted up in Bonita and dipped. You failed your daughter the day that you established fraternity and said, oh, I'm going to do what's right, and did absolutely nothing. You failed your daughter the day that you sat there and decided to not have a relationship with her. You failed your daughter. Again, yes, I will never take away the fact that the city failed these girls, but it wasn't all on them. It takes two people to make a baby. It takes two people to raise a child. Bonita was struggling financially. She was on every type of government assistance that you could think of, and you were behind on child support. Probably living your best life with the next bitch. Probably out here making more babies for all we know. And Brittany was left in that house suffering the most horrific death that you could think of. This ain't got nothing to do. This ain't got nothing to do but you trying to get paid. You trying to make a buck off your daughter's death. Call it what it is, point blank. You don't deserve shit. And if you did get that money, the irony is they're going to take that shit and apply it to your child support that's owed. I pray that they did not give your ass a dime, because if you sue the city and all and y'all went to the courts, I'm hoping that the attorney was like, where the fuck were y'all all these years? How the fuck you gonna ask for more money for the city failing your daughter when you weren't even involved in your daughter's life? I can't stand Negroes like that. The audacity, the unmitigated gall, the negacity of it all to sit there and try to benefit from that? Fuck out of here. All I can say at this point is that I hope and pray that since this case, that the DMV's entire system has changed. I'm hoping that now, when it comes to cases like this, if they don't wait, that they don't wait 33 days for a child to be missing from school before, or and that something is done about it, that they don't wait 33 days and then say, oh, we need to inform the guidance counselor, that they don't skip out monthly visits that are required for a person to keep their housing. That is all for this week's episode of the Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. That's a number one, by the way, not spelled out, and you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group, but please be advised, if you don't answer the questions, you ain't getting in, okay? That's simple. But once you get in, let's chop it up, because we talking about the real in there and everyone is having fun. Plus, we like to post different stuff and just laugh it up. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on, so please leave a review. It only takes a few seconds. The reviews matter. And speaking of, let's get to some of those. The first one comes from Facebook, actually, and it was from LeBrian, one of my favorite mobbers who I had the pleasure of meeting at the live event in Charlotte. The review says, this Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending my very first live true crime podcast show. And when I say Kay Johnson is amazing, I truly mean it. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but what I love most about Kay is that she's more than just a podcaster. She has multiple shows. She's an author, a mother of four, works a full-time job as a first responder, which is a huge plus, and provides real insight into true crime stories, and recently earned her doctoral degree. That alone is inspiring. Most podcasters don't invite listeners into their personal lives, but Kay is real open and honest about hers. That honesty and authenticity keeps me locked in, because she's not just telling stories, she's living one too. It's time for y'all to tap into the authentic work she does. Baby, when I tell you that you had my ass weak that night, oh my God, it was so much fun. And thank you, LeBron, for that. I appreciate all my A1 day ones, okay? The next review comes from Kelly Bridges on Spotify on the Vampire King of Fresno episode. And it says, I know Kay often gives her thoughts and opinions throughout the episodes, but this one has a lot of sidebar and side talk. Found myself saying, girl, come on with the story. And I do appreciate the feedback. I really do. Episodes like Vampire King, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Let me tell you now, like, y'all heard a lot of it with this episode too. So all I can say is my bad, but it's well deserved. Okay. A couple of announcements, y'all. In April, I will be doing the Celebrities Who Left Too Soon series, where I talk about gruesome cases involving, cases of celebrities that were found murdered in the most horrific way. So make sure you stay tuned for that in April. Also, thank you again to everyone who came out January 17th to the live show. It was amazing. And y'all know we were having a blast. The next event is coming up in June of this year, and it is going to be the Infamous Ones Who Done It. where I have a few other surprise guests participating. I can tell you now, I'm trying to locate a decent city and venue. So, let me hear y'all suggestions. There's a thing in the Facebook group. Oh, and did I mention there will be a $500 cash prize? So stay tuned for details on that. Make sure to follow the Black Box for new episodes. You can follow on whatever app you're listening to the show on. If you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor that we've been sipping on or this Moscato, go ahead and click that link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. Subscriptions start at 99 cents. You can also donate via the Cash App to $Infamous1Pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Donations go toward court documents, interviews, JPay, all of that. And of course, shout out to the popcorn donation gang. That's love as always. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. And once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast is growing by the day and it means the world, so please keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a new episode. Oh, wait. Y'all gonna get a new episode in just a few hours. Stay tuned, y'all. Stay mobbing, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.